All right, welcome back to the RunThrough Trails podcast. We've got another episode. It's actually been a super busy couple of weeks since we last recorded with Danny 2 weeks back. We've delivered a brand new 100K, 50K, 25K event over in the Swiss Alps in Engelberg. I've moved out with my family to Annecy, and it's actually, as of recording this podcast right now, UTMB World Finals week, and Gemma's out on the CCC course. And actually, did main UTMB just start 8 minutes ago? I think, yeah, we're right in the thick of it. But aside from all of that stuff, we're joined with another amazing guest this week. So lucky to have on the podcast today, Anna Gibson. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here.
Nice. Yeah, we're really excited to have you. So Anna, obviously super elite trail runner with a really long history of all different types of running, Brooks athlete. And if I'm correct, you're going to be representing the US at World Mountain Running Champs coming up in about a month's time.
Yes, I will be. I'm going to be running the vertical race and the classic race at Worlds.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're definitely going to get into that because quite an interesting venue over at Canfranc. I don't know how much chance you've had to kind of recce things out. Well, probably not recce, but, you know, look at the route and stuff. But we'll get to that. I mean, Anna, what we normally do is just to kind of introduce you to our audience, start out with just a little bit of background. So how did you first get into the sport of running?
Yeah, so I'm from the US. I grew up in Wyoming in a ski town. Lots of people have probably heard of Jackson Hole. So I think like sports were just always a part of who I was as a kid. Like my parents are super athletic, outdoorsy people, and we were just camping and riding bikes and skiing and hiking around and doing all sorts of stuff. So then when I went into school, I like started to run kind of organized cross country and track. And I was also skiing like downhill racing and then switched over to cross country skiing, kind of like all throughout my years in school. And then I went to University of Washington for college, and I ran in the NCAA there, doing cross country and track. And then I've been professional now in the trail space for about 2.5 years with Brooks.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So were you always on track? Did you always want to be a professional athlete? Was this something you dreamed about as a kid and kind of worked up towards?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because as a kid, I was like really, really into ski racing. I thought that I wanted to be a professional downhill ski racer. And this was like when I was 10 years old and I had no idea what my talents even were as an athlete, or like I didn't even really know what that meant, I don't think, to be a professional athlete. But I wanted it then. And then I think like as I was going through school, like through high school and through college and then grad school, I kind of was just always thinking I would come out the other side of that and like be a runner for life or be an athlete for life, but just follow like a professional career. And I like worked pretty hard towards that. And then had the opportunity to run professionally. And now I'm like, I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. But it wasn't like something that I had set my sights on when I was super young and like worked every day to make happen. I was just like really driven and really motivated, like every step of the way, and was just kind of taking it as far as I could.
Yeah, I think a huge part of that must be where you grow up and like the influences around you. So when you grow up in Jackson and you're looking around and people are just doing all sorts of extreme outdoor sports, obviously it's probably mainly winter sports, right? Like lots of skiing, lots of snowboarding. Yeah, like I mean that was the place. I've never actually been myself, but it's definitely somewhere that's been on the list for a long time. Watching all like Travis Rice movies back in the day and all that type of stuff. Definitely a mecca for the sport. So you were just surrounded by kind of super active out there people who are doing cool things all the time. I guess that just kind of feels normal.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, this town is like so full of people who are just like really challenging themselves every day. And I think like the average athlete is like already at a really high level relative to like outside of this community, which is just kind of crazy. So it's definitely motivating. There's a lot of like professional athletes around, not too many professional runners specifically, but lots of people who are just like constantly striving towards the highest level of sport.
Yeah, what would be the main kind of endurance sport practiced around Jackson? What is it, a hub for ski mountaineering or ski
Yeah.
racing and stuff as well? Yeah.
Yeah, not too much ski racing. I would say probably like kind of big mountain like freestyle skiing or
Yeah,
like
right.
skiing. Yeah, just like kind of big ski objectives and that type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, more like the extreme sports side of things as opposed to like I suppose you'd say athletics really. But so is there much of a trail running community?
Um, Not on the professional side of things, but there are a lot of people here who trail run and a lot of people who come visit Jackson in order to trail run here. I live like right outside of Grand Teton National Park, and like it's
Nice.
just a mecca of trails. Like it's amazing. The running is incredible, and there's a little bit of everything. Like I think it's the type of place where you can like go for a chill flat trail run that's not that technical, or you can like run up and down the Grand Teton, which is basically climbing on the upper section and like has some really technical moves, and there's sort of just everything in between.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's it most similar to in terms of the terrain? Is it like Colorado-esque at all, or like in the types of trails and that kind of mix between like scrambling and climbing and kind of could go technical, or you can get really beautiful flat trails, that type of
Yeah.
terrain?
Yeah, I would say similar to Colorado. Like
Okay,
the rock is a little bit different, but it's like mostly like pretty rough granite, with like nice kind of sandy dirt in between. Yeah.
perfect. Sounds nice. Are there any big events in Jackson? I'm not exactly aware of any major trail running races.
Nothing major. There are a couple of like really epic local races that get put on every
Okay.
year. And that's sort of how I got started in the trail world is I was like racing cross country and skiing and track in high school. But then on the side, like in the summers, there were these really cool events going on that were total like community parties. And they were just like, there's two ski areas here. There's Jackson Hole Mountain Resort and then Snow King Mountain Resort. And both of them have a hill climb race. And so I would show up and I would just like grind it up this mountain, and that's kind of where I like first fell in love with trail running. So there's nothing huge, but there are opportunities to compete here.
Yeah, like a bit of a grassroots community kind of thing. Okay, cool, nice. And what elevation are you living at? Are you fairly high?
Yeah, it's like 6,500 feet. So it's honestly,
Yeah, okay.
I think it's been like the perfect elevation for training because higher than this, I feel like the recovery is slowed down a lot and you can't like get the turnover going, which I think for like the short trail events I do is really important. But then if I'm lower, then like I don't have the altitude stimulus and I love training at altitude. I think my body responds really well to it. So I honestly just like feel better when I'm training at altitude. And I think that's like really important for me. So it's the
I
perfect
mean,
elevation.
yeah, you must just be ultra adapted. Like you've been there forever. So it's almost 2,000 meters is normal, or 6,500 feet. That must be pretty nice. So,
It is.
I mean, interested in those like early years through. So, did you ran in college, and you must have obviously run in high school as well? It's quite different. We actually had Danny Moreno on a couple of weeks back, and we are talking about the difference between the UK kind of youth running scene and how organized and don't really know the right word. Like it feels very professional at quite a young age. Like, the teams are very professional. You've got teams of coaches, you've got all the kit, it's televised. Obviously we watch like a lot of the US, the big national cross country races on TV and stuff like that. And it just seems very professional at quite a young age. Uh, Obviously that's had a massive impact on your kind of career. Um, what was that experience like going through high school and college as kind of a high level runner? Were you one of the fastest in your team, or were you kind of a bit of a later bloomer when it came to athletic performance?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, yeah, Jackson is a pretty small town. So my cross country team in high school was fairly small. And we were competitive like around the region and we were super competitive in the state of Wyoming. But we did travel a lot because there was much better competition just outside the state. So we were driving down to like Salt Lake City, Utah, or like going to Boise, Idaho, kind of going to these bigger like hubs in order to compete. And I did kind of like towards the end of high school, I was starting to be like pretty competitive around the region and then nationally. And so I got invited to some of these meets that I think you're probably talking about with a lot of like, they have a big brand that sponsors them and then the brand pays for all of these high school athletes to go and to compete against each other. And for me, like those experiences, my junior and senior year of high school were so key because like I didn't have the accessibility to that type of racing, that like high level coming from Wyoming. Like it was just a much smaller place and we were driving like 8 or 9 hours every other weekend in order to like get
Wow.
to events. And so being able to like get launched kind of onto this national scene and get to compete with like the best runners in the United States was just really, really cool. And I think ultimately like that helped me like get into like, the Division 1 running scene. And I already like had a bunch of friends and felt like I had a community there. And I'd met some college coaches like through that high school process, because I had been exposed to them.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. So were you more track focused or cross country focused when you were like high school, college kind of time? 'Cause you're a 1,500 runner, right?
Yeah, mainly
Mainly?
Good runner. I mean, in
Yeah.
high school, I always really enjoyed cross country because I thought it was just like really fun to have a different course every time, and all the added elements were really fun. I felt like it was just kind of more of like a natural form of running for me. And having grown up like on the trails and stuff, I think, yeah, I just really liked cross country. But then in college, for some reason, I just really struggled with cross country. Like I never felt like I really hit my stride, and um yeah, I don't know what it was about it. I still haven't really put my finger on like why college cross country was so challenging, but I thrived a lot more on the track during that
Okay,
time, and
interesting.
I kind of just leaned into the 1500 and tried to get as fast as fast in the 1500 as I could.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, is there much of a difference between the distance in women's cross country between high school and college, or is it a similar distance?
It's similar. High school was a lot of like 3 mile or 5K races, and then college it
Okay,
was just 6K. So it was pretty similar. And yeah, I don't really know exactly why I struggled so much with that. I think I was just like kind
interesting.
of underdeveloped from like a like aerobic base perspective. Like I was just running really low mileage and like
That
all
was
throughout.
actually going to be my next question. Like, what was your mileage like in college when you were focused on 15s with some cross country? Like, how much running were you doing?
Honestly, not very much. It's pretty crazy. I was running like 25, 30 miles a week. And
Really?
I also
It was
did like
just all 400 reps, or
it was a lot of intensity. Like my college team, we were during the track season, we would sometimes do 3 workouts a week and a long run. And then that was basically all of my mileage. And I would cross train the other days. So I would just like have 2 easy bike days incorporated
okay.
into that and a day off. And that was my entire training plan.
And was that like the coach's philosophy and the whole team did that, or was that you specifically? You just did well off low mileage.
Um, I mean, the low mileage thing, I think that was kind of like my training specifically. There were a couple of other girls on my team that also had kind of a similar setup, but Um, most of my team was like running more easy runs and like sometimes would do a workout and then double in the afternoon with another run. And I never did any of that. I think we found that like the cross training just really like translated for me and I could stay healthy and feel fresh if I like had some biking on the program or I had some skiing still in the program. And I think, I mean, that just goes back to like my roots. Like that's just how I was raised. And so having those things still be a part of my program was like how I felt the most like myself and the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
athlete.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. That's how you grew up and they're the things that you like to do. I mean, there's always this, seems like there was this thing forever of you enjoy cross country because it was very different courses, off road, like a bit more natural. You wanted to get on the bike, get on the skis. You're from Jackson, you skied a lot as a kid. Like, it seems like you had an affinity for just outdoor sports in general. Obviously, you had kind of a bit of a predisposition to being a really good athlete and then trained really hard and like succeeded on the track and ran some amazing times and had some huge success. But did it always, well, maybe not at the time, but looking back now, did it feel like you were always going to end up kind of on the mountains, on the trails, doing this type of stuff? Because it's like the perfect combination of the two worlds.
Totally. I mean, looking at it now, I mean, this seems so natural and it's like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's just bound to happen. Like, how did I not see this in the moment that this is exactly what I wanted? But yeah, it does kind of feel like a full circle moment. And also like all these themes that we're talking about with me having like this outdoor sport background and trying to incorporate that all throughout college, like that's all still exactly what I'm doing. Like I'm still running really low mileage relative to most of the women that I'm competing with. And like relative even to the distance that I'm racing, it's really low, but I have like a really high overall training volume because I'm able to do all of these other sports. And for me, that just works.
Interesting. Well, talk us through that. Like, what's your, obviously, it's going to vary week to week depending on race goals and whether it's a big week or a taper week or whatever. But general kind of numbers or ideas on like running time versus cross training and what type of cross training you're doing different times of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say the running volume varies quite a lot just depending on where I am. And I honestly don't count all of that up and add it. Like, I don't really look
Okay.
at like total mileage week to week, but like, I can tell you I've never run a week over 60 miles in my entire life.
Wow. Yeah, that
And
is low.
I did that one time and I was like, oh my gosh, huge week. This like, look at me now. I typically am like 50 miles or so, sometimes less, with like a solid amount of vert in it. So it takes quite a while. I would say like,
What's the solid amount? What type of
uh, at least a couple
loose?
thousand, like a couple thousand per day is like generally
Okay.
where I land. Like sometimes I'll go
Okay.
for like a flat, easy run, no vert, just like on the roads. But most of the time during this like during the trail season, I'm getting a couple thousand every day. Um, and then I'm biking mainly in the summers as my cross train, but I add like typically it'll be like 5 hours of riding a week, with like one big ride and then two bike doubles. Yeah, 5 to 6, maybe more, depending on kind of where we're at in the training block. And in the winter, like that, a lot of that time goes towards skiing, just because, I live in a really wintry place and I can't run very much, and I also.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Cool. So with the cycling, is that all road cycling?
um,
Any like
Road and
gravel, mountain bike, gravel? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Nice.
primarily gravel and road.
Okay. Cool. Good access to gravel at Jackson, like
Yeah,
around the area.
good. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Cool.
it's a little bit limited. Like you can't go for like just a gravel ride and be only on gravel, but you can like kind of link up loops of like paved sections, gravel sections, and that's pretty fun. Or like you can go over the Teton Mountain Range and go into Idaho, and there's like amazing gravel roads out there because
Wow.
it's like very kind of farmland, like agricultural area.
Nice. And is a lot of the riding? Do you train by heart rate or effort, or do you just do perceived effort? What do you work on in terms of, are they easy rides? Are they steady? Are you doing any kind of having any structure within the rides with some intensity, or is it pretty much just mileage, aerobic base?
I mean, it depends on the time of year. So I've like also done a little bit of bike racing this year,
Oh,
in some
right, cool.
gravel events. And so while I was preparing for those, like there was some sort of structure to them. There was like a couple of interval sessions and that type of thing. That was like guided partly by power and partly by heart rate. Um, but like this time of year when I'm training pretty hard for running, like none of my intensity is on the bike. I'm just going out for a ride, and I try to keep it like a zone 2 ride. Like I don't want to go too easy, and be like zone 1 heart rate, like not really working that hard. So yeah, but it's also just a lot by feel. Like I'll go out, and if I feel good, I'll push a little bit. If I don't, I'll just like really easy spin the legs and just go for a
Nice.
cruise.
I mean, you got that advantage of it's such a massive reduction of impact, especially when you're running so much elevation. Because if you're doing 2,000 feet of climbing every day, obviously you're also descending that. Uh, Plus with the sessions, and one of them's a long run, I'm assuming, obviously. So yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I've started to try and add in a little bit more cross training on the bike, and I just don't think my legs are strong enough to kind of maintain a reasonable heart rate. It either feels way too easy or just really difficult quads, because I haven't been doing that much cycling. I'm not used to like big long rides through the mountains. But I can definitely feel the advantage, and it's just nice change of pace. Like,
Totally. Yeah,
yeah,
it is really interesting though. The bike is an interesting tool when you come from the running world, because I think it like completely decouples like your heart rate and your perceived effort. So like running, you're very familiar with like, okay, this is how fast I can run. Like let's say you're on a flat road. This is how fast I can run, and it'll be like zone 2 or zone 3 or whatever. Like you have this sense, whereas on the bike for me, like my power zones match my perceived effort a lot more than my heart rate zones do. So like I'll
interesting.
I'll think I'm going zone 2, like in terms of effort perceived, but then like look at my heart rate, and my heart rate's super low still on the bike. And it's just this sort of
Yeah,
weird.
that's what I mean. You can't get your heart rate up, or like you try and get your heart rate up, and you feel like you're just working so hard. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. And like
Yeah,
my max heart rate on the bike is much lower than my max heart rate running.
interesting. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, interesting. Well, so Gemma, who I just mentioned, so this is my coach's wife, but also just a close friend and someone to do a lot of training with. She's doing her debut 100K as we speak at CCC. And she was doing a load of testing with poles, like for longer running, because she was moving up from 50K to 100K. So it seems kind of logical that you do some testing with poles, see what's more efficient. For perceived effort whilst using poles on climbs, for her, at kind of steady to tempo type perceived effort, she was moving more efficiently and quicker with the poles, at the same perceived effort, but her heart rate was higher. And it was a bit confusing. Like it felt easier, but her heart rate was higher. And then as we were sort of chatting through it, it seemed maybe like it's because you're engaging more muscles. So like you're using your back and your arms as well as your legs, and you're distributing kind of the the load through more muscles, which is probably good in a really long race. But actually, you're able to work harder because you're using 4 limbs instead of 2. So I wonder if maybe it's like that with the running versus the cycling, because you're using more core, you're using more full body. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah. I know. I'm curious about it. I'm also curious, like, is that because I am like proportionally like fitter running than I am on the bike,
More
or
efficient, maybe. Yeah.
maybe, because my body's like more used to it. So maybe like if I was an elite professional cyclist, like maybe that relationship would be a little bit different. Maybe they get more fatigued by running because their muscles are not quite as like prepared for that. I don't know.
You're probably right. I mean, they would have to, but I mean, anyway, I'm not sure. But how did the gravel race or gravel races go? Was it like fun, or was it just suffering?
It was super fun. I
Oh,
loved
really?
it.
Nice.
Yeah, I did 3 this year. I did one in February. That was like my first bike race ever, and was like it was horribly intimidating. Like I was just so out of my element, and um I think like emotionally that was really good for myself. Like it was good for me to put myself in that situation and be like very fit and know I'm strong on the bike because I train on it a lot, but just have no idea how to race and like be a total noob. And I think like that level of like discomfort, then when I went back to running, I was like, "Oh, this isn't that complicated. Like I've got this. I know what I'm doing in this space." And I think it like really prepared me for the rest of my season. So I decided to do 2 more after that race in February. I raced at Steamboat Gravel and Crusher in the Tusher, and like they were really cool opportunities just to push myself super hard. Like most of the running races I'm doing are 3 hours or under, with the exception of a few. And like these gravel races that I was doing were like 5 to 6 hours, so just like a huge
Okay.
stimulus and like a really cool opportunity to have to fuel for longer and hydrate for longer and just like really be engaged and yeah, be in like a totally uncomfortable environment for me and trying to
Oh,
figure
that's
out
cool.
with it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's. I mean, what was the biggest challenge? Was it the technical skill of like descending on rougher trails? Because obviously you're pretty fit, but maybe like you say, you haven't got the hours and hours and hours and years in the saddle, like that specific fitness. But yeah, what was the most difficult part during the races?
Um, I think mentally, honestly, like I think
Really?
just believing that I belonged there, like because I signed up for these like elite professional women's fields because that's where my fitness would suggest I should be.
Right.
Like
And you were
I've
able to just do that. Was there like a barrier to entry? Like you would have like a UTMB score, just nothing. You just say, I should be here.
You just sign up. Yeah, you just sign up for that category. And
Nice.
so yeah, I was on the line with women who I like have been following in bike racing for years, who I like really look up to and totally idolize. And I'm like standing next to them on the start line, like, okay, I guess I just have to believe that I belong here, and like forcing myself to just like, yeah, to trust my body, like to pace it well, and also just like compete with them was like really, really eye opening. It was very hard in the moment, but I think like a huge learning experience for me that like I can carry forward into my running career.
Nice. Do you think that's something you'll do in like off season in years to come? Throw in a couple of gravel races here and there?
Yeah, I'm kind of not really looking at it as like an off-season thing either. I think it's just something that I really like to do also. And
Nice.
I competed really well at these races, so I've had some more opportunities open up because of that. Like I definitely am like I'm kind of going into the gravel world too and trying to see where, yeah, see what races pop up that like work with my race calendar on the trails, and yeah, see if I can like kind of blend the two.
Okay, cool. Nice. So any other sports that you're competing at like a world class level outside of gravel cycling and trail running? You doing
This
some
is jumping
skimo
the
races in the winter? Or?
Yeah, this is jumping the gun a little bit, but I am preparing to race some skimo this
Yeah,
winter
of
as
course. Yeah.
well.
Okay.
Because
Right.
why not?
Yeah. Why not? Well, I mean, it leads me into what's your coaching situation? Are you self coached? Do you have a coach?
I work with David Roche, and he
Okay.
has been
Nice.
amazing for me. Yeah, he lives in Boulder, so we're like working remotely together, but I think that setup has been great. And he's like the ultimate fan of the multi-sport approach, and I think just really understands me like overall as an athlete and as a person. So he's like all of this training that I'm talking about, like that's all David. Like he's doing
Okay.
all of that for me. And we've worked really closely together to kind of like figure out what works and what the right balance is between the different sports. And yeah, he's super helpful.
Nice. Okay. So you're coached by David and a Brooks athlete. So you must know Luke Grenfell Shaw, maybe
Um,
cross
no,
paths.
we've crossed paths, but I don't know him very well.
Oh, interesting. So also coached by David and sponsored by Brooks, and probably I think he's racing CCC. In fact, I know he is because I think he was in 15th when I looked earlier. I only
Oh,
asked because he's like a bit of a friend of the show. Well, yeah, he's a nice lad. He's run a few of our races, and he actually came and gave like a bit of a talk at our staff social in the summer. He's got a crazy, crazy story. Well, anyway, we'll move on from Luke. But if you ever do meet him, nicest guy in the world. I'm sure you really like him.
I'm sure
But yeah,
our paths will cross soon enough. Yeah.
they have to. There's too many overlaps there. Well, I mean, let's get into the trail running stuff, because we haven't even really gone in depth into your racing and your plans and the specifics around that. So, what was the first? Well, actually, what was the first start line that you stood on that was a genuine trail race where you were there to compete?
Ooh, like in my life?
Yeah. Was this something that you
Um,
did like during college and stuff, or was this all after the track?
Definitely in college. Yeah. I think like the first really big one that I went to, I actually don't remember what order these went in. I like spontaneously flew to Europe and I just decided to race a World Cup race in
Okay.
France.
Nice.
Um, that was like basically my way of just justifying going on like a really fun vacation. And I wanted to go train and run around in Chamonix, and ended up finding this race that was like up the side of Mont Blanc, and it was just a vertical. It was like 6,000 feet of climbing. I was like, perfect. That sounds right up my alley. And I ended up getting fourth there to some women who I like still compete with very often, like see around. And I think I just had my eyes like totally open. I was like, whoa, there's a whole crazy world of trail running out here, and I really want to be a part of it. And then
Do you remember what year that was? I know, but like how long ago are we talking?
we're talking, I think like 2021, no, maybe
Okay.
2020. It was like,
Okay.
because I remember on that same trip, I got COVID. So it was like during the COVID times, and it was the first time I'd ever gotten COVID, like in Chamonix while I was staying in a hostel. This is really horrible timing. And I raced
Sounds
this,
about right. Yeah, yeah, sounds about right.
I raced the race like 8 days later. It was insane. Um, and so then that same summer, I like raced at the Rut in the US, and I ran the VK and the 11K there. And that was kind of my first summer of like really seeing what the trails were all about, like outside of the Jackson area.
Cool. And was the appeal of the vertical stuff because it was short and sharp and fast, and you thought that would suit your kind of physiology and speed, or was it the mountain thing of just living in Jackson and wanting to just being used to elevation?
I think a little bit of both. Like I think at that point I already had this sense like, oh, I'm an uphill athlete. Like I just knew that. Like that
Interesting.
was my strongest point. And I had done the two local races here, which were hill climbs. And so I thought, okay, natural progression is to go try some hill climbs somewhere else and see what happens.
So and you obviously were good at it, so that's always like a bit of a boost, right? You go and do a race and you're not particularly trained for it. You've not got much experience, and you place really well in like a deep field in the Mecca, on the entire planet. Going to Chamonix and racing high level people and placing fourth is amazing. So that must be a huge confidence boost. Were you then thinking like, maybe I'm going to do this VK World Cup type circuit? Maybe I'm just going to be an uphill athlete, or were you more already starting to look at like Golden Trail type races, half marathon distance races that just had a lot of elevation? Like obviously we're going to get into stuff like Sears and Allen, whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think I started to realize like I didn't even know that much about trail running at this point. Like I was like following along with Golden Trail a little bit just because that media was kind of like starting to come through on like my channels and stuff, and there were a few people I knew who were racing. So I was like vaguely aware of Golden Trail, and I like had heard of UTMB week, and like I don't know.
okay.
I didn't know that much. Like I was still like learning about all these different circuits and all these different opportunities. Like I I could not have told you what like Zagama actually was, or what Series and All actually was, or what UTMB really entailed. Like I just had these very vague concepts of them. And like, yeah, the World Cup was just like the most accessible. It was just this thing I knew about, a race that I don't even know how I came across it. I just was like, I'm going to Europe, and I just like Googled like trail races in around Chamonix, and then just found it.
And it just came out. Yeah, but it's weird though. It's not that clean in terms of, the path for elite athletes. And I mean, it's maybe more obvious now and a bit more established because as it becomes probably just more mainstream and there's more content and there's more kind of awareness around it. But I didn't even know that there was that much structure there that long ago, or at least it wasn't easy to work out where the best people raced. Because for me, I was way more watching. I mean, I was aware of like Killian and these huge names at UTMB, and I was watching some of the Golden Trail stuff. Like I remember the year they had the World Finals on Madeira. and they had multiple day stages where one was like a segment that was a climb, one was a segment that was a descent, and you're in different points. I just thought it was really cool and unique. But I didn't even know that the World Cup circuit existed. Like, I wasn't really aware of that being a thing until I met a certain group of people that took part in the uphill races in the World Cup circuit. And I was kind of a fan. Like, it's not that clear, is it, where to go or what to do?
No, I mean, there's so much to learn. And that's kind of like, I think that's just been like the theme of my entire trail career. It's just like, there's always more stuff on the horizon. There's always more races that you don't know things about until you're like in it and you're just experiencing it. You hear your friends talk about stuff. You're like, you see some video about some race somewhere and you're like, oh, that looks crazy. I want to go do that. And that's just like constantly like trying to learn and trying to figure out, okay, what's next? What does next year look like? What are goals in my career? And I feel like I've never been someone who like plans that far ahead. Like, I'm like, okay, 2025, this is what I'm going to do. Like, I have no idea what's happening next year because I'm still gathering all of the information I need in order to make the decisions about where I want to go. And I'm still learning
totally
about what sounds cool.
Well, I mean, it's a nice way to do it, and like having success along the ways. In terms of where you're at now in your career, like sat here mid 2025, obviously Worlds is coming up. I've got a list of your like past couple of years of race results in front of me that I just brought up. Obviously, you did some races in Golden Trail. You had some good success at like some huge races, such as Cieznau, which a lot of people throw around that Cieznau is probably like the most competitive, like biggest, most historic trail race in the world, which there's lots that you can throw into that with UTMB and Western States, but short distance wise, definitely up there. Ridiculous course profile for people listening. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard of it, but like basically a 2,000 meter climb into like a gradual downhill, half marathon, kind of. It's such a unique race.
It's pretty crazy race. It's also incredible. Like for anybody listening who's curious, like I'm gonna give them a nudge to go because it's incredible.
Really? Okay.
Really just a super special experience. And like, yeah, you do this double VK up out of the valley and then you hit this like rolling. It does climb still for a while, but it like opens up and you have this like insane view of the Matterhorn and you're just running through these like beautiful Swiss meadows, like up high in the Alpine. And the level of competition is just so high. It is really a cool race.
So, I mean, taking that race specifically, so 2024, last year, you placed 6th. Talk us through that experience, because everyone's seen kind of clips of the level of atmosphere at the top of the climb, and it's got so much history behind it and stuff like that. Was it last year that did Killian run a course record? Did he beat his own course record by like 10 seconds? Yeah, it's ridiculous. Such a cool race. By 1 second, something crazy, right? Talk us through it. What was that race like? Like a 2,000 meter climb into then like an undulating kind of slight uphill into a descent. What a weird thing to pace. Had you ever done anything like that? How were you preparing for that first? Because people must go out way too hard. I imagine people go out way too hard.
People go out way too hard. It's crazy. Yeah, people go out and then just blow up and like have catastrophic failures, essentially. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like, I was just trying to be super calm and like pace myself super well because I'd heard the horror stories about people going there and then blowing up. And I was like, I really just don't want to be one of them. I just want to enjoy this race. I want to finish it feeling good enough, like feeling okay. I just didn't want to be one of those people. And so I went out super easy. And then like the day just like progressively got more and more like insane. Like I feel like I just had this like magical experience, kind of one of those races where you just like really are in the flow state and you kind of have like an out of body experience where you're like, I have no idea how I just did that when you finish it. Like I had that at Cieznau last year, which was just magical. I don't think a lot of people have that as their first experience. I know a couple of other people who have. But I immediately, like, I crossed the finish line. I was like, when can I come back? Like, I want to do this. And it was so fun.
I remember watching the live stream, the Golden Trail, and they were talking a lot about, like, they kept referring to you as a 1,500 meter runner, which I guess, like, in a way you are. Obviously, you're not just that, as we've talked about, but it was probably like maybe my first time being exposed to you on that kind of scene and seeing you race at that level and thinking like, how different is this race from like a 1,500 meter track race? Obviously without all the background, if you've done all these VKs and uphill races and stuff, and just seeing how well you perform there and how good you looked doing it was super impressive because like you say, you know that field is ridiculous. So to be top 10 at Ciersenal as like, I mean, would you say that was your first, like, I mean, you obviously run big races before that, but was that the first huge race where you'd flown over to Europe and competed against like the world's best?
That was definitely the most competitive race I'd ever been in up to that point. And I also had never raced for 3 hours. Like I had run a couple of races that were around 2 hours. And so it was just massive for me. Like the biggest vert profile, the longest time wise, the most competitive in so many ways. And I think like this is where David as a coach has been really helpful for me as like I distinctly remember the phone call that I had with him before Series and All last year. And he was like, just telling me that there's nothing to lose. There's absolutely no pressure. This is my first try ever at this type of thing. And, it's just like a total learning experience. And so I went into it just not stressed at all because there was zero expectation on me to do well. Because it just kind of felt like a stretch. And I think I've realized that's when I thrive the most is when I'm just like free of all expectations. And I just am like really, truly trying to enjoy the moment and enjoy that race that I'm in.
Nice. So on the flip side of that, have you got a race from the last maybe year or two that's fresh in your mind where it was like kind of the opposite, where you went into it with a lot more pressure and kind of took it too seriously and didn't perform? Or maybe
Not one
didn't
that I
enjoy it
did,
as much?
not one that I didn't perform, but I think um I like emotionally struggled a lot during Series and All this year, actually.
But you ran faster.
I know I ran 3 minutes faster. I
Yeah.
finished 3 places further back because it was even more competitive than last year.
Somehow seems to keep happening. Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing where I'm like, results don't always tell the full story, like the performance objectively was really good for me this year, but I think I mentally like had a really hard time. And it's because I came into Sears and All like knowing how special and how magical it can be. And I had rolled my ankle really hard 6 days before to the point where like I probably should not have flown to Europe. Like my ankle was huge and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to race. And I think the mental energy that I like spent on trying to get ready for the race, not sure if I was going to be able to, debating what was the right move, like should I not? And knowing that like Worlds was coming down the pipeline at the end of September and just that I really didn't want to hurt myself in this race, like I was so in my head. And I think like I'm really proud of it, especially because I battled so hard against like my own negativity in the race. But like I did not have any of that like flow state feeling, no
Just an
vibe.
absolute fight. Yeah.
Yeah, absolute fight. And I just crossed the finish line and was just like really proud of it, but was also just like absolutely crushed at the same time.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, racing's so weird like that because to come back and run 3 minutes faster, I mean, 3 places back makes no difference really because, like you say, it just depends who's there on the day and conditions, and there's so many factors that go into it. You're exactly right, though. Like looking at it from the outside without knowledge of the depth of the field in particular types of races, sometimes like a top 20 placing in a particular event is an amazing result, and sometimes top 20 is just nothing because it's this small local race. So for people who like really into the sport and they see CSNL, they see OCC, they see whatever, these huge names, the Gamma, seeing anything close to top 10 is incredible. But for anyone else, they might be looking at you and thinking like, oh, you should be winning these races, right? You're like a professional runner. You're one of the best in the world, but they just don't have that gauge for what that depth of field looks like. Uh, and it's crazy that these races just seem to keep getting more and more deep. Like even on the commentary for OCC yesterday, they were saying average UTMB score of the top 20 men or whatever is the highest it's ever been. Whereas last year it was like, how can it be higher than this? It doesn't. It's
Totally.
like more and more people are coming into the sport, right? It's crazy. You've got all the people who are already amazing, and then all these other people from other sports who maybe wouldn't have considered trail running as a professional athletics career. Whereas now it's kind of getting that way, right? People like yourself are able to sustain like a full-time career as just an athlete. Or I'm making that assumption. I assume you don't work on the side.
No, I don't. I do have a couple of like private coaching clients, people that I work with, but it's really just like it's super, super part-time. So I'm
Yeah, okay.
mostly full-time athlete at the moment.
But there's not that many of you doing it like that, right? Like it wasn't that long ago that even the best guys in the world still had part-time jobs and just
No,
like
it
work
is
3 days a week.
it is really crazy. Like I feel so fortunate to be in this moment in time that like my career is exploding and there are opportunities in the trail space to be a full-time professional athlete because I know, I mean, in college I did not know that that was a thing. I didn't know that I could be in the trail space and do that. I knew I could join a track team and follow that path. or be a professional marathoner and follow that path. But I did not know that trail had so much opportunity, and like it's definitely still has room to grow. Like it'd be really cool if like more people could achieve that.
Yeah.
Could, like live that life full time, but it has changed so much in the last like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know that like 5 years ago there weren't many people other than like Killians and Jims and people of that caliber who really probably were sustaining a proper lifestyle, supporting a family, like paying all their bills purely from running. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really, I don't want to say it's exploded because it's been actually quite like a nice, consistent growth, but we've definitely seen it on the event side of things. Like, obviously, that's what we do. We organize events, and we've just seen this consistent, sustainable growth where it's not this big, scary bubble of like, oh, there's loads of interest. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, I don't know, like rollerblading when I was a teenager was like really cool, and there was all these competitions. It was in the X Games, and now like who rollerblades? I'm sure someone who listens probably is really into it, but I'm not sure it's like a massive sport anymore. But trail running doesn't really feel like that. It feels like nice, sustainable, consistent growth, and all the events get bigger. The brands are leaning more into it. Even yeah, I don't know. It really does feel like it's just taking up more and more space within the athletics world, which kind of brings us into world champs and how strong of a team the US is bringing for all the different distances this year. From everything I've seen, it's kind of ridiculous. Obviously, the US did really well in, was it Thailand or Innsbruck? Didn't the men's team overall second or win world champs soon after COVID? So I don't know. I can't remember the specific one. I think it was in Thailand. They had a really good placing anyway. And obviously have a super strong team, but this year it's looking like pretty stacked, especially in the short course trail. I haven't seen loads of the uphill and classic. Like who else is on the team with you?
Yeah, well, that's what honestly is really fun is there were a bit of like mix up. There was a bit of a mix up that happened. Like I think that people would not have predicted the teams that we're sending for those two
Okay.
disciplines, especially on the women's side, and especially for the vertical. Like, there are just some people who like have worked so hard and are so deserving of a spot on a world's team, but just like I don't know, they're just not the people that you necessarily would have expected to all be together. So, that team is me, Hillary Allen, which is amazing. Like one of my Brooks teammates, she had a crazy accident. I'm not actually sure what year, but like I think like 8 years ago, maybe. She like fell during a trail race super far and got really injured and has like had this crazy journey back to being, internationally competitive. So just like a huge win for her. Um, and she's been racing ultra races for the last few years predominantly, and then just throws herself in this vertical qualifier race and qualifies for worlds. So that's super
Was
cool.
that was it Broken Arrow? Was it Broken
Broken
Arrow?
Arrow.
The track?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Right.
Yeah.
And did they do that? They just did top X number of finishers guaranteed place, or was it also based on like previous results?
Yeah, it was top 4 finishers make the
Wow,
team.
okay. So she
And
just
they
earned it.
actually it was supposed to be a vertical kilometer, but then there was like super high winds the day of the race, and so they cut it in half. So it was a vertical half kilometer. And
No way, right.
it was super short. I think it took me like 27 minutes.
Oh, it
So
sounds
absolutely
horrible. It sounds horrible. Were you happy with that? Or when they announced it, was that like, oh good, that helps, or is that a bad thing for you?
I was fine with it. I don't think
Yeah,
it
probably
really
suits.
changed anything for me. Like I think coming from the track background, I was like, all right, it's game on. There's no time
Yeah,
to
that
waste.
confidence boost. Okay, so you and Hillary, and then who else is it?
Another Brooks teammate of ours, Sydney Peterson, is her first year as a pro, and she also came out of the NCAA. But yeah, I think huge moment for her in her career, like very pivotal, kind of like just getting her foothold and yeah, being like really internationally competitive. And then Jess Brazeau, Jim's
Okay.
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just awesome team. And like, we crossed the finish line and all three of them are like in tears, just in absolute disbelief of what they just did, which
Oh,
was really
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then, so how about for the classic? How many people are doing both?
For the classic, I'm the only one who's doing both on the women's side. My teammates for that are Lauren Gregory, Allie McLaughlin, and Courtney Coppinger.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
For people listening, classic's a bit of a unique race. Like obviously, it's quite common at Worlds and Europeans and on certain circuits, but I think for a lot of people who just kind of watch UTMB Golden Trail type stuff, it's a bit of a unique format. So, do you mind telling us a loose idea of what the course looks like in Canfranc in September?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't studied it too deeply, so I can't give you any of the super detailed information, but it's basically I think it's like 12 or 14 kilometers. It's super
It's usually
short.
like 12, yeah, something like
I
that.
think 12. Yeah, it's super short, but it's basically like two laps around a course, so you go up and down and up and down. Um and they usually like try and keep it really fun and interesting and engaging. So it's also kind of a sprint. It's a super short event.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Cool. Yeah, it's not a race format that I was particularly aware of until Europeans last year when I was racing the short course trail and we are there with the rest of the team, and obviously a load of people are doing the classic. And Naomi Lang had an amazing run, and she's actually just been like, I don't know if you're aware of Naomi. She's
On
a
a tear.
British. I mean, what is she doing? Like, where does she come from? She's ridiculous. She was
Yeah,
obviously really good then. That was like last June. I met her for the first time, and just a really nice girl, like just super normal. And I was like, oh shit, she can really run downhill. Like, she's really quick downhill, and she's
amazing.
just everywhere. Like, she's smashing it. She podium at ETC just now, and anyway, yeah, I can't like look anywhere without seeing her name. She's killing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
she's
yeah,
I think she's running the short trail at Worlds.
is she right? Okay, she's going a
Right?
bit longer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's going a little bit longer. Which, I'm like, okay, good. Like, don't have to worry about Naomi rolling me up on the down.
So
Usually,
that is, she's like known for that. Hey, she's a good downhill
oh,
runner.
she's so known for that. I mean, that's usually
Yeah.
where, like, in the last 2 years, every time I've raced her, the place that I have interacted with her in the races is like her passing me on the downhills.
Oh no. Okay. Well, it's interesting, right? We talk about this quite a lot. Like, obviously, it depends on the race and the profile of the course and stuff. But generally speaking, it kind of seems like maybe less so in shorter races, but stronger climbers have more of an advantage than strong descenders, based on the logic that you're climbing for longer. So you're able to like use your strength for a larger percentage of the race. And yes, someone who's really fast downhill can make up time, but the descent is still shorter for everyone because you're running it so much faster. I don't know if you think about it in that way, if there's any truth in that. It kind of feels like that's the case, especially in 25K and longer, I would say. But maybe in short stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
Zagama, for example, this year. Sorry, go on.
no, I do. I definitely agree with you. Like, I think I've sort of just leaned into climbing being my strength because of that fact. Like, okay, it's all right. Like, I've got the climbing thing down. Like, if I can climb really well and then just survive the downhill, like, I'll be in an okay place. But then also, like, the downhills are really important, and I have historically, like, that's been my weakest like discipline. And so I've just worked really hard because it sucks when you've like done an entire race. Normally the race ends on a downhill, so then it's like you always are ending like losing spots, and that really sucks. And so I've like tried to like really work on that because I don't want to continue to be in that place. So I've definitely grown a lot as a downhill runner. Because
Nice.
I think it is really key for the short distances to be good at downhills and to be able to do it like fast when you're tired.
No, I think you're right. Definitely shorter stuff. There's a massive impact, and you can make up a huge amount of time. But, how about on the flat? Like, where do you sit relative to other women of your standard? So, like world class shorter distance trail runners. Are you? I don't know if we're talking like 10K PB or half marathon PB. Are you on the faster end of the flat speed? I would imagine you would be.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually never raced a road marathon or half marathon. I have not done
Wow.
a 10K. So I don't know what any of my times are for these things. I would imagine because of my track background, and just because of like where I find myself in these races on the trails, like, yeah, I think I'm relatively good at running flat and fast. Like I have the turnover to be able to do that. And I know I could run some fast times on the roads if I trained for it. I just don't particularly have a ton of interest in that
Yeah,
category.
yeah, maybe that's a future thing. But the downhill thing's really interesting though, because for me, so I love downhill running. It's something we talk about quite a lot on the podcast and stuff. I'm definitely a way stronger downhill runner than uphill runner. Um, and I've always, or other people that I know who are also good at descending, they tend to have like two or three different things, and two of those main things, or three of those things, are they've done a lot of like mountain biking, a lot of skiing, and they've got really high, really fast leg turnover. So it
Mhm.
seems like you should be amazing at downhill running. So maybe it is just a case of like a little bit of time and experience and doing more of it, because I feel like you've got the tools, right? I think the extreme sport, extreme downhill, gravity fed sport type thing makes you really good at like quick decision making. You know how to spot a line. You're maybe like confident moving downhill quite quickly, and then like the high turnover is so essential, which you must have. from the
Yeah.
track. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, I think I do have all of the pieces that I need to put it together, and I've slowly started to. Like, I used to be like truly horrible at running downhill. Like even I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, that was just very, very much my weak link. I've gotten much better because I've put such an emphasis on like learning and getting better. Um, but yeah, still a long ways to go. I don't know. It's an interesting
Nice.
process. And I think for me, like a lot of it is mental because I just have like a very strong self-preservation instinct where like I
Okay.
just really don't want to get hurt. And I'm like, no race is important enough for me to like really take a huge risk or like to sacrifice my health. And so if I think there's any chance that I could fall or like really hurt myself, I like kind of have a hard time overriding that preservation instinct and just like really pushing it. And I think you see with like a lot of the best downhillers in the world, like there's risk that they're taking. And, you know,
Absolutely.
people get
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah.
And I just am not one of those people. Like I'm always just behind the line that I think is like, yeah, a safe amount of risk to take. And it does slow me down in races. And I think it's just I don't know. I don't try to fight that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's probably smart. I mean, the whole UK like fell running scene is very much kind of a little bit that way. Like there's a lot of pride put behind going a bit crazy and like letting it go and kind of being right on the edge of control or beyond control and somehow holding on and absolutely flying. But people get hurt all the time and it's probably not really worth it. Even Danny last week when we were chatting to her and she had that horrific ankle roll on the final descent at OCC last year and it's kind of ruined her last 6 months or more.
Totally.
It's probably not worth it really.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. Okay, nice, cool. So, well, in terms of worlds, obviously it's over in Canfranc in Spain. Seems like you like coming over to Europe and racing. Have you got a good little routine down now by way of like travel and getting used to the different time zone and diet and all that type of stuff? Do you feel pretty dialed in with that side of
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. I feel pretty dialed. I love coming to race in Europe. I think like a lot of Americans kind of like drag their feet a little bit because they're like, oh, I have to do this so much. Like it's so tough, so hard on the body. And I think it is, but I just try not to like focus on that part of it. I just focus on the part that's super fun. What a cool opportunity. Like I love to travel, go see a bunch of friends from all over the world and compete together. So I'm just really looking forward to it. I think, yeah, I have learned the things I have to do in order to get over the jet lag as fast as possible. And sometimes I bring a bit of my own food over also because I don't know, particular about what I need going into a race, and I'm gluten free, which can be really hard in Europe sometimes. So I just know all the things that I need to do at this point. Like I've got a pretty good routine going.
Nice, awesome. So, how long before will you come over for Worlds?
This one, so this trip will actually be a little bit different than what I've done in the past. I have like a little training camp sort of thing I'm going to like mid September. So I'm coming over on the 14th. So it's like a bit ahead. I've got like 10 days before Worlds, which like I think is great. I've done lots of
That's
different combination
perfect.
things. Like, but I mean, before Zagama and Sierras and all this year, I like went over 72 hours before the race. So I can also do it on a really short timeline and like feel fine, honestly.
Really? Yeah, that would not be long enough for me, I don't think. That's interesting though. So, okay, so you're over. Is it like a Brooks training camp?
No, it's I'm going to Italy with the USA Skimo team. Um
Cool.
there's like a little bit of kind of an on snow training set up for just a few days and then we're just hanging out in San Martino di Castrosa.
Oh,
Um
amazing.
so yeah, just an opportunity to kind of like yeah, get settled over in Europe. And I've also found something about me is that I like really thrive when I'm like a little bit distracted or like not getting too intense or not focusing too hard on just one thing. And so I'm really going into Worlds with the perspective like, this is my first world championship. It's also just the same as any other race. Like, I'm going to approach it the same as I would. And if this was another race, I would have no problem going to do a little training camp, like with no emphasis on the training itself. Like, I'm not going to
Sure.
be like crushing myself or going hard, but I think emotionally, like, and mentally to be distracted by like being with people that I enjoy spending time with in a really cool place and kind of just like enjoying my time in Europe is like the best way for me to go into Worlds feeling loose and relaxed and not get too intense about it.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, it's super exciting. I don't know a whole lot about the venue, but from what I've seen, well, I've only seen more of like the short and long course. Quite technical, quite a lot of elevation. But I suppose for your two races, it's quite set in terms of like the format and the profile and stuff. But yeah, definitely unique venue. But you've raced in Spain before, obviously, at Zagama.
Mhm.
Probably quite different terrain, though. Hey, like bit more
Yeah.
rocky, but well, Zagama's pretty technical though. But Zagama's just like mud, sliding down rocks in the mud. It seems like.
Yeah, Sagamo is actually like fairly dry this year,
Yeah.
which was pretty wild. So I think it will be like kind of similar to where we'll be for Worlds. But yeah, I'm curious to see like the differences and just kind of explore like another part of the Pyrenees.
Yeah, totally. Oh, it's an amazing part of the world. And then, speaking of which, I just want to finish on the Golden Trail finals last year. Obviously, touch on the race a little bit because that was definitely a sliding on mud type of race. We were over there at the time. It was just absolutely pissing down the entire weekend. But also because our company, RunThrough Trails, are putting on an event in Locarno on the same weekend this year. Different course, different kind of going out on the other side of town. But yeah, just wanted to touch on that race because it's a place that I really love it. I don't know how much of it you got to see with the weather and obviously the racing and stuff, but like Locarno itself, right on the lake there on the Italian border, it's just like, I mean, Switzerland for a start is probably just the best country in the world. It's probably the most spectacular place. The mountains are epic, like everything's spotlessly clean. But yeah, what did you think of Locarno? Did you get to explore a little bit around the race, or was that like a quick kind of in and out trip?
I did get to explore a bit. Yeah, it was cool. I actually also went there. There was an opportunity to like travel with the Golden Trail crew and to go check out that area before the final. So it was like a few
Oh, I
months
saw
in.
the content from that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I get to go on that trip as well. So I've been there twice, and I think like getting to do that kind of made it so I was able to see more. And then I actually like kind of stayed around in the area a little bit and like did some bike riding after the Golden
Nice.
Trail final because it was the end of my season. So I did get to explore and it was really cool. The rain was actually pretty awesome from a race perspective. Like I think it just made it so much more fun and interesting and just like was a total wrench in everyone's game plans. Like you
Yeah,
just really had to be like super tough, which I feel like is just the essence of trail racing. Yeah, even if
nice.
it's like crazy weather for you guys, I hope it's just enough.
Well, we were there meeting with the venue at the same time because the plan was to have this event this year. And so obviously they wanted to show us the Golden Trail event. We were to meet them, see what was going on. And the guy was standing there in the tent. They were doing the runner announcements. You were probably standing on the stage, to be fair, in the little tent in the town by the casino. And the guy who manages the tourist office was like, honestly, James, it's usually really sunny this time of year. It's 20 degrees, like it's blue skies. We always get good weather in November, and it's just torrential downpour outside. And I'm like, okay, you're really trying to sell this date to me. But like you say, it made it kind of cool though, right? Because like especially that fast section underneath the chairlift that all the reels and stuff on Instagram are kind of made up of people sliding down that in the mud. It was definitely exciting, like and I quite like what they're trying to do with the course format with the petal shape. And I know some people like it, some people don't. I can kind of, from an event organizer point of view, understand what they're trying to achieve with that. And it does make a lot of sense in a load of different ways. From an athlete point of view, I can kind of see why some people might not like it. But what did you think of that format? Are you bothered? Did it feel contrived or was it just fine?
Um, I'm a little bit mixed on it. I don't want every sub ultra race to look like that because for me, that's just not the best race format. Like personally, as an athlete, like it doesn't suit my strengths because I've noticed like I really thrive when it's like a big up down course. Like you go up once, you go down once, or like Sierras and all, where it's like a huge climb and then a flat and then a descent, or like something like that. And I think that the pedal format like inherently just means that you're doing like up down, up down, up down, and it's just this like very like kind of cyclical thing where like you're not ever getting into like a huge climb and then a huge descent. They're all kind of chopped up and broken up into different loops, which like is fun. And I think it's great to have some of that. Like I wouldn't want every course to be like one up and one down, but I think it's just like the variety is really important. Like to have races that suit different people and kind of like that appeal to different people, like I think different talent will go different places depending on what the format looks like.
Yeah.
Um, and if every single race on Golden Trail was like that pedal format, I'm not sure that I would want to do it. Like, I think it's also just really cool to go summit a mountain. Like, it's like, okay, who can
Right.
run to the top of that the fastest and who can run
Yeah, yeah.
back?
I
Like,
think that's one of the coolest things about trail running, though, is you can have all these different races. Like you go and do 10K on the track, and it's literally the same thing every time. I don't think there's a more boring race in the world to watch. Even if you're obsessed with athletics, watching the 10K on the track, even if it's the Olympic finals, is kind of tough because it's just so repetitive. Even when the best people in the world are racing, but you can go in trail running, you can watch UTMB, you can watch like races that start down in the valley and finish net uphill. You can have races like Transgran Canaria that start at midnight on a beach and cross an entire island. There's all these different varieties. And I think one of the things that appeals to me the most about a race is like the history and the kind of vibe behind the loop itself or the route. Like it has to kind of feel like you're on a bit of an adventure. And when you get into these multi-lap kind of contrived formats or course shapes, it doesn't really feel the same. Like you don't feel like you're going on a journey from start to finish for a reason. It just kind of feels like too manufactured, I guess, which, like you say, every now and again makes sense, but it's not as appealing as something with some history that, from one town to the next, or one big loop of a valley, or like you say, hitting a summit of a big mountain or something kind of means more.
Yeah, I think just a balance is good.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, it's been really good to chat. I feel like we could just talk for ages about all these different races and stuff that you've done. I mean, before we jump off, obviously massive good luck for Worlds. I hope you have a wonderful training camp over in Italy with the Skimo team. Stay nice and distracted and can kind of chill and settle into the time zone. And then obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on your racing over at Worlds. I can't imagine there's going to be many people doing UTMB week races and also taking part in the vertical and the classic. Maybe some people racing ETC. I don't know. I know that's a thing in the longer races. A lot of people are doing OCC and short course or whatever.
Yeah. I think there are a few doing UTMB something and then doing the classic and vertical, but not too many.
No, probably not too many. But yeah, okay, interesting. Well, we'll definitely be watching keenly, and best of luck for that. In terms of the rest of the year after Worlds, I know you said you don't think too far in advance. Obviously, you're thinking about 2025. Is that last big trail race of the year, or have you got your eyes on anything else in terms of trail, or is it then more kind of maybe a gravel race, a bit of skimo, thinking about winter?
The plan right now is to race Worlds and then the Golden Trail final. So I'll be over in Europe for about a month for those, and then just start doing some skimo stuff. Likely like end of November, early December, and then just see where things are at. I think the season is long, so I'm not sure how I'm going to be feeling or like how things are going to shake out. But that's all I've planned for the next couple months.
Awesome. Where's the Golden Trail final this year?
It is like on the north end of Lake Garda. So
cool.
Hills there. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Like actually sort of similar, I think, vibe as Locarno, where like the race was up on the mountaintop and you're kind of like looking out over the lake and have like some pretty cool views. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for your time. It's been amazing to chat. And yeah, best of luck with all the racing for the rest of the year. And I'm sure we'll kind of cross paths again at some point in the future.
Yeah. Thanks so much. I hope that your upcoming races go well.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right, awesome. Good luck. Thanks for your time. Thanks to everyone who's been listening. If you are interested in going checking out Locarno after we've just talked about it so glowingly, just head over to runthroughtrails.com, check out the races. Obviously, we've got a 25K and also a trail marathon going on the 1st of November. It really is a stunning part of the world. And obviously, give Anna a follow on all of her social media channels, Instagram. Make sure you follow her along at World Champs and also in the Gold Trail World Series.